good morning, good afternoon, good evening, of course, depending upon when you consume your media. Welcome to Run It Back, episode number 63. I am your host, Menelik Fernandez. I will start us up the same way that I started up every time. Run It Back basically takes teams that have played previously, and we talk about that game in terms of how we prepared for it, what we would do differently, what we did and liked and would keep the same. Talk about matchups. We talk about what we're tracking on the bench, all that fun stuff. And since episode 6, we've been very, very fortunate to have coaches from the game in question join us. And today we continue that trend. Today, the game in question we're looking at is Missouri Western State versus Washburn. The game took place February 18th, 2021. So it's a fairly recent game as we are filming in July. And we are most fortunate to have Tim Peete, who was with Missouri Western State, has since moved on, of course, to Radford. Congratulations on that. But Tim, if you give me a second, I will try my best to do you justice with the warm welcome that you deserve. Tim is in his first year at Radford as an assistant coach. He spent 1 year at Missouri Western State, also as an assistant coach, where they went to the NCAA tournament. Spent 1 year as an assistant coach at Chippewa College. I'm not going to say that properly. Chipola. I'm sorry. I'll get there eventually. In the 18-19 season, where they went to the state semis and had a national ranking for a large portion of the year. He coached high school at Arlington High School in Memphis. He did his GA at UNCG. And also was just an incredible basketball player who played 4 years at Tulsa, was a letter winner. And during his senior campaign, went on to the NCAA tournament after winning Conference USA. So, Tim, not only have I grown to know you as a friend over the past year, and really thank you for taking the time, but I'm really humbled to have you on the show. It's a real pleasure to have you on Run It Back.
Man, no, I appreciate the warm welcome. Thanks for having me on. But at the same time, I think my claim to fame is just being a part of good people. I've been fortunate to be around really, really good coaches and good players. That's been probably my claim to fame, and I hope to keep that up.
LB having a little fun in the chat, of course. There's nothing wrong with that being the claim to fame. That's I think that's sort of the way that all of us develop into being better when we're around good coaching trees and good player trees and all that, which is a huge part of the reason why I started this show, because I like to learn from people in their coaching trees and hear all about it. So give us a little bit of background if you can, just to set the stage. You guys played 2 nights before versus Newman and won. You played them once before on January 9th and won, and you're, about halfway into the season, and it's a COVID season, if I'm not mistaken. So, give me the rundown and the ins and outs of what's happening there.
Well, bear with me because it's a lot of backstories to this game. Comes to find out, we just beat Newman, but we also was on a 2-game win streak coming in to this Washburn game, which is really important for us to have a chance to be playing for postseason play. But before that, we were on a 6-game losing skid because of COVID. We had the entire team out early in that. We played Northwest Missouri, and we just beat Washburn before we got hit with COVID. So our entire roster was out. And then on the back end of it, me and the head coach, Will Martin, we were in quarantine because we both tested positive. So it's very ironic that all we did was do the scouting reports, but our other assistant had to himself deliver our scouts until the Washburn game, because I just got out of quarantine for that game. It was a really important game for our guys. It's a rivalry. It started up because before I got there, they beat them 2 of the last 4. They knocked them out last year, and then we beat them at our place, which was our last win. They were number 6 in the country. They had a really good team. I played personally for the head coach in college at Tulsa.
Right, so a little bit of a relationship there.
It's funny because I had to scout and we beat them, and he runs some of the same thing he ran there, but his philosophy as a coach, I try to have to put myself in his shoes and how he used to coach us. So it gave me a leg up at times. But it also, as me and him have talked, it's allowed him to like switch up some things because that's because I was in his shoes and we talked about some things in certain situations and I would call out his plays and we just laugh. But that game at Washburn was really, really important because they were really, really hot at the time. Had a chance to probably win the league because they just beat Northwest Missouri, who won the national championship that year, and they were tied. And they were still trying to figure out their team as well because he was still. I knew that they had some things going on because he was still moving guys in and out of his lineups to be more athletic or space the floor. But they had a really, really good team. And as you know, like we beat them this game, but we played him 2 more times after that. He made the adjustments as I knew he would. But at the same time, I think that when whatever team does the adjustments that you make at the highest level with intensity and intent, it can frustrate your team. And I think once a team sense that frustration and they enjoy seeing you frustrated, they keep it coming on. And it's like as my dad would say, shit rolls downhill fast.
Right. So, all right, let's segue a bit into the actual game preparation. You did mention that, it's COVID and there were some restrictions placed on you guys, but let's talk about, this is your scout. Did you do all 4 of the scouts against this team? When do you start this one? How does it change because of the restrictions? And what would you typically do versus what you did this time if there were any differences?
The main thing when you played Washburn last year was Tyler Guyman. He's the key to their entire team. I believe at one point in time, he probably influenced scoring or assisting over 65% of the points. He generated the offense. So you really, really, really had to focus on him and keep him out of the middle of the floor because he gets guys shots and he's really, really talented to create for himself and crafty to draw fouls and finish. So the main thing for me, this scout coming back was to, for one, keep him out of the middle of the floor because he loved to snake ball screens. And
I actually have a couple clips about that, and I want to talk a little bit about how you wanted to defend it.
Yeah, and certain things they had the big guy Clausen. He was really good around the rim. How fast we played. If we were able to play in transition, he couldn't play as much because he wouldn't be able to keep up. So that was really important to us to make sure we limit him to one shot, use our hands and our activity to get deflection and get in transition. And also make sure we had really good gap presence and knew guys who we were helping off of and force guys that were not keys to their offense and making plays as with more detail when we start watching film of guys I picked to make more plays and be more selfish and not just a crash guy or a ball move and make those guys dribble and make plays. I'll point some of those out. But also it was really important for us to get our all-league sophomore big Will Eames going offensively. And you'll see if you have some plays, he made some crazy shots. We ran out of bounds under to him just because he was really important. He was a key matchup for us to have to get him really going because once he gets going, people want to switch. We can put him in the post. He can score all 3 levels as well.
Love it. So not everybody knows, but Tim and I were on one of Lamar Barrett's really, really good panels about presenting a scout. And I've been fortunate to see what you can really do. So thank you for talking a lot about the specific stuff. Let's go to the general process a little bit about like, how early do you start preparing? What goes into it? How do you deliver it to your staff? How do you deliver it then to your guys? Are you doing a paper copy? Are you doing film? Are you doing a combination? What's all that look like for Tim Peete? Because I know it's pretty good. It's pretty detailed. I've been privy to see it myself. So I want to showcase that for sure, sir.
So since I was in quarantine, I had a lot of time to be able to do. I did. Me and the head coach probably did every scout together, and we just pretty much presented it to our other assistant, and he did what we all felt and agreed upon to show the guys. But coming into this game, since we just played those guys, and they were really hot. I knew that they wasn't going to do much different because the second half of the game that we played them in our place, they had some success. And so I knew he would keep it a little bit more simple offensively than what he did the first half. Because we pressed a lot going into that first game, and they turned it over, and we sped them up and took away the initial shots that they were comfortable always getting. But going into the game, they in the second half, they did a lot of high ball screens, side ball screens, and just went right into it and allowed their point guard to make plays instead of getting it out of his hands and then getting into it. They just pretty much initiated it much quicker. And I knew kind of going into it that our ball screen defense was going to be really, really important. And so it was about 2 days out. I just got out of quarantine. It was 2 days out. So we only focused on ball screen defense 2 days out because like I said, we just played those games and guys didn't have any legs. So we did ball screen defense on the 2 days out, and we showed them the situations where in the second half that they really killed us on our defense. And then the second day before practice, we watched offense, and we saw how their defense, when we got paint touches, their defense really collapsed and slapped at the ball. So understanding when you drive to the paint, that no matter how hard you drive it, they're coming. That I knew that since I played for him, he wanted you to really, really make guys make plays. He didn't trust people making decisions because passing and catching is something that a lot of people can't do or focus on.
Right.
So it was about being strong with the ball and understanding that once you get this one rotation, you have to take the open shot. And also a big key for us was getting to the offensive glass, and we were one of the better transition offensive teams in Division II level and forcing steals. So of course that was always a non-negotiable when it comes to being active defense with your hands and getting 50-50 balls and being able to run the floor and share.
So when you're saying you're watching their defense or whatever, would you look at the previous game that you played them? Would you watch like 3 or 5 out, or would you look for other teams in your conference that play a similar style to you in order to find clips to show your guys? And then when you're showing your guys, are you showing all your players the same thing, or are you showing a select few more because they might match up with particular players type deal?
Yeah, we would show everybody everything, but we had a well-diverse offensive package when it comes to different things we ran. So we ran similar things to every team in our league. So we would watch, I would watch 3 games before we played them, and of course the game that we played. And in this game, we knew that if we was able to get middle by getting a paint touch, that they're coming and we're going to get open looks. And understanding if one shot fake or one ball fake would make these guys fly, and also we knew we'd be able to get to the offensive glass. And if you'll see the kid that we have on our wing, the 3 named Caleb Bennett, he didn't have a great game numbers wise, but he was really, really active on the glass. He was really, really active cutting. And that's how we got him going. And once he got going, he was much better defensively, like every other kid once they see the ball goes through the net.
Would film be on the same day as your walkthrough, or would you send them individual stuff? And like, if it's on the same day, do you give them more in addition that they could choose to do on their own as well?
I go more leading to less. So initial day, I go more. Like the first day we presented, I give you more. Then the second day, I give you probably a good real round of personnel more. A lot of personnel first day, because I think that's more important than anything, guys guarding personnel. Second day would be I would throw actions in practice at you, like random actions in practice at you, but I would show you actions the second time we come down. And then the day of the game, I would literally come right back at you. And I would have sent you some clips of some things that we need to do offensively, of understanding when you drive it here, this is where the ball is going to be. This is where the open space is going to be. I will show you some offensive things. And then the day of the game, right before we get on the bus and have pregame meal, I would show guys exactly the tendencies of guys when they're uncomfortable with the ball. I would make them look more human than superhuman, you know,
I
because
love
I
it.
think that I like to think guys like to see the guys turn the ball over if they have the right energy and the right activity with their hands and we're in the right spots as well.
I've made the comment a few times on this show talking about like jack of all trades versus like being highly specialized in certain things. So what you guys do on the defensive side of the ball, when you're showing them clips, are you trying to associate how it fits into what you do? Or are you sometimes approaching your coach like, hey, we're a switch only team. We really need to high hedge in this particular instance, or we typically guard a stagger this way, but we're going to get killed on it because of the personnel. Like, are you making changes or are you trying to fit it into what you do?
I think that we're trying to do it and fit into what we do. I think that I'm a firm believer in I'm gonna make them adjust to me. But I also do believe that if we do it to the level of intensity that we're capable of, I'm not worried about what they're doing. Because if we do it to our level, we're going to force them to do something that they're not comfortable doing, which might be hitting a curl. But like I said, passing and catching is something that a lot of guys don't do. And our ball pressure should take away the curl pass anyway, just because we should be that much active on the ball as well. And our activity should cover mistakes that we make.
I like it. So what about as you're moving into the in-game stuff, does your coach have you manage rotations? Are you setting up substitution patterns before, or are you doing it via feel? And are you always like consistently monitoring matchups during the game and
Mm.
subbing based upon those matchups type deal?
Yeah. So the only matchup in that game we were worried about was the 5-man.
Right.
Just because of he's really good at getting to his right shoulder and he can get you in foul trouble. But if we're capable of putting him in foul trouble, we have an advantage because we had 3 different types of bigs. They wasn't as talented offensively, but they were really active to get us second chance points, and
Right.
they get in ball screen coverage when they're locked in. So that was in this game that was the most important thing. But we did get in foul trouble first half. So you had to play with some matchups. You might have to put our 4-man to 5 so we can switch it and throw some things off. So it was very, very cool. It was unique to kind of put myself in my old coach's brain to see what he might do, because they had a kid named Rathan Carter that they were starting when we beat them, and they were playing really well. But coming into that game, he was just starting to play not so well. And I knew if we were able to make him make a turnover here and there, he would be in the doghouse and he's done. And that's exactly what happened. Sorry about the lights.
No, that's all good.
Yeah, timer.
Got a little motion sensor going on at Radford. I love it. So, going sort of from general to specific again, if you had to summarize everything that you've just given us about, like, the importance of personnel and who does what would you attribute? I hate to use the phrase like keys to the game, but I'm sure you boil down to some sort of succinct point of view when you're presenting to your guys. What did you really think, were the keys that you had to zero in on in order to beat this team?
So I actually have it right here in front of me.
I love it.
So it was, so like I said, we were number 1 in the league and probably one of the top teams in the country in pace of play.
Right.
But they were right behind us. So transition defense was something that I didn't talk about. They were really, really good at getting out in transition. Their point guard really run. They was trying to get a paint touch and spray for threes and hitting trail threes, and they were really good. So transition defense was number 1 to me. The 50-50 balls, they're a really tough team. They're hard-nosed team. They probably do, if I know their coach pretty well, they do toughness drills. They do a toughness drill every day, if not every other day. So that's a non-negotiable for them. So that became a non-negotiable for me. The 40 minutes of focus, that's something we struggled on. Like, right. To beat a team like Northwest Missouri, who they beat, you can't just play 39 minutes and think you're going to beat them. You have to play 40. So 40 minutes of focus became something that really, really key to us when we practice every day. Our head coach would screaming every time in drills, just 40 minutes of focus. And even if you mess up, at least you knew where you messed up and not blame somebody else. But that doesn't mean you focus just because you make a mistake. And then trying to get scout stops, which is trying to force guys into things that they're not comfortable doing. And we have those things written down in our scout
Right.
reports. And like I said, you'll see them in film, and we also had offensive and defensive keys, and leaving them to one shot, game rebounding. I believe my point guard, he had a lot of rebounds that game because which got us out in transition. He was a really good player. Don't lose sight of shooters, so don't overhelp, because they had some really good guys that can knock down open shots and get it off quickly. So not just being dead in help. Understanding you in the gap and getting out of it and making those guys finish over our length, because we led the league in shot blocks, making those guys finish over our bigs.
Love it. So then from all of that stuff, I'm curious, because it raised the question about the defensive transition. So there's a couple coaches in here that know that, like, I would assess myself as, of the 4 phases of the game, it's probably what I'm weakest at. What are you telling your guys? What are your focal points in defensive transition against a team specifically that's really good pace of play? What are you really trying to hammer home with them?
Yeah. First of all, you have to stop the ball. You don't stop the ball, you're not doing anything. So stopping the ball at high as possible, but not too high where guys are just reaching and slapping at the ball and giving that fake Ole defense, like they're giving effort. So pretty much somebody has to call the ball and everybody has to communicate. And then the next thing is loading to the ball. Everybody needs to load to the ball, because I'd rather load to the ball versus nobody rotating.
Right.
I think you can sort things out when guys are loading to the
Tim,
ball.
let me ask you something specific about both of those things. Do you give your guys an actual pickup point on the floor? And then do you also, like, when you're loading, are you saying, like, these people go to the nail, these guys get to the rim line, that kind of stuff? Or is it really more of a build your wall, but it's subjective in terms of how it looks and the length of your players, et cetera?
To be honest, in transition, nobody has a man. That's been one of my pet peeves I've gotten to, on the other side of it. Nobody, I don't care if the 5-man stops the ball, nobody has a man. And when you talk about transition, but I would prefer my guards that's supposed to be getting back, starting to talk first, and he starts to help everybody build out and build their wall, and having everybody load into the ball, stop the ball at least. Luckily for us at the D2 level, we had a volleyball line. So that, like, by half court, somebody needs to be knowing who has the ball, and you start pointing and screaming and yelling at your teammates where you're going, and you start to sort that and build their wall up. But I worked for Coach Wes Miller at Greensboro, and then he always said that you're one closeout away from either getting it sorted or getting your ass kicked. So you're always one closeout away. And that's always what it is.
Love it. And then in terms of in-game, what is important to you? Like, what are you tracking on the side at halftime? As for instance, in this game, you guys were up 39-32. What are you looking at the box? And then how are you implementing change from those things that you look at?
Yeah, I think even if you go before 39-32, I think we were up 18. Right. And the one thing that was crazy was the number of deflections we had in the first 12 minutes. We track deflections, and we also we also keep up with how many 50-50 balls that we come up with. And on top of that, we also stat our press of knowing when to and not to, on who's in the game as well.
Right.
And that's something that I think just keep it that simple, because our guys knew that we had to get to a certain number to show that how active we were. And in the first half of that game, we were more than half to the number we were supposed to get. So they knew that they were that active. And it's funny because I believe in the second half, our guys wasn't as active. And I had one of the players tell me, yeah, we're relaxed because we just thought that that's the number we're supposed to get and we're going to win the game. And that was later on down the year when he told me that, like, but at the same time, like, it's certain numbers that these guys try to reach, and that they knew it and that they enjoyed it. They enjoyed competing, and guys knew that being first to the floor, and also offensively getting paint touches. We actually calculated at the end of the year how much paint touches it generated our offense of getting a good shot versus a bad shot. If we were able to get a paint touch that put teams in rotation, or they give us a higher percentage chance of getting fouled or getting a layup or getting a back door when guys are really, really aggressive, trying to get a paint touch. And it's funny because guys started to get downhill and just want to get a paint touch to not run any plays. They was really, really aggressive on the first or second side, trying to get a paint touch, force a rotation, and we would get good shots.
So you would have like a GA or yourself tracking that?
Yeah, me and the others. So luckily, like, look, I feel like I'm in heaven right now because I have more help than I've ever had in a while. But me and the other assistant in our GA, so there was just three of us. I would have the 50-50 balls and deflections, and then the other assistant would have the paint touches and non-paint touches, and he would let us know those numbers at halftime, and then our GA would have our offensive rebounding, our crash percentage of guys that's supposed to crash versus not crash. He would have that. He was pretty accurate knowing which guys always went to the glass and which guys didn't.
Somebody's interesting. Somebody was telling me that their screen's not working. Sorry, I was just looking into that. I think that's basically all I have for all the prep stuff. I'm okay to move into some film, unless some of the coaches that are in here, unless any of you have questions for Tim. I'm going to jump into that. TP, while I do that, all the stuff that I will play 2 to 3 times, just to give you a heads up as to what's going on. So basically, I will play it once just so everybody can see. Then I'll play it a second time and try to like fumble through it with a description, so to speak, for anybody who's listening instead of watching. And then the third time, all you just kind of take it away, tell us what you see, tell us what you like about it, what you don't like about it, what you would do different, any of that fun stuff. And you know what? I actually have one more question from before, but I'll get to that at the end, based upon how we do. I pulled 20 clips from this game, so I want to give a little bit more time to film. So let me know if this playback is smooth, okay for you. You're good with that? You can see it?
I can see it.
All right, perfect. So this is one of their sets. It's from early in the game. I think if I remember correctly, the first 3 possessions were actually turnovers in this game. So this was the first one that looks like a set. It's a horn set. It's an interesting one. Ball screen to the left. They roll that ball screener. Then turns into another ball screen in the middle of the floor. So basically we're like a short corner ball screen here with a roll replace action. And you guys are defending. You defend sort of with the, I think it was the over first. No, you went under on both. So there was the switch there. And then we have the under into, I guess, a veer switch, but no, he actually chases it the whole way. I thought he did veer, but he chases it the whole way. And then we get second side, we get into play after the play type stuff, and they end up with a 3-point shot that they miss, and you guys rebounded and you're out. But talk to me about everything that you see there in terms of the multiple screens, the coverages, and how you played it, and what you guys do with play after the play type stuff.
So it's funny because it's a guard to guard screen. Regardless, we're going to switch a guard to guard screen.
Right.
And right here, personally, what I wanted them to do was ice, but it is hard. So the one thing I would change is I would want my big to be a lot higher, because if you can stop it right now, the most important guy in our scout would be the guy that's in the corner, the guy that's getting a shot at the end of the possession. Yep. We know that he is what we call non-existent offensively when he's out there. In that league, it's funny, if you can't shoot, they don't guard you.
He's a no. Yeah, right.
Yeah. So Will Eames is in the corner. He can help everybody. He can make everybody's life easier. That's on drives. That's on this action right here, as you see on this roll replace that they're trying to run. And my point guard Terrell Carroll, he's ball watching, but he's really, really quick at making up for his mistake and to get a closeout. And he led the league in steals. So at the beginning of the year, I would go crazy on it. But by the end of the year, I know you can't be as crazy and adamant about it when a guy's he's trying to give that effort. I'll just tell him he have to wake up because later on in the game, that's going to burn us.
Right.
I'm just trying to get my guys through the war versus try to break them down through while they're in the war. You know, that's something that I've kind of learned over the last year and a half. But he had a pretty decent closeout. He was late to the closeout, but it still was a pretty decent closeout. And also, he forced him to our guy that we want shooting the ball if he does shoot it. And Will helps heavy, but guess what? He takes a shot that we're fine with. And as you see, we have everybody either touching somebody or going to the glass to try to rebound this ball.
Love it. The gentleman that you said that was a little bit late with the closeout on the roll replace action, would you have him just basically be following immediately in an ideal world as opposed to
following? He should be already right next to him because Will Eames is guarding a guy that we wouldn't mind shooting the shot that he already just shot at the end of the possession.
And then you mentioned the big being important as well. You kind of went with the drop and under coverage here. At what point do you tell your bigs to switch? And whose call is it? Is it the ball defender, the original ball defender, or is it the bigs call in terms of when that switch should happen?
It's the bigs call. I think I think if you give the person that's getting hit by the screen the autonomy to switch it, they'll just be lazy and switch it themselves instead of get through the screen and take the easy way out.
Right. Like it. I'll get to the next clip. Give me 1 second. We just got Mr. Tucker joining us. So here is one more set early in the game. It's now you guys on offense. I believe, if I remember correctly, this was a horn set as well. Looked like you set up guard forward instead of forward on the elbows there. We call this action horns chest in my league. So it's just basically the flare screen to this step up ball screen. He attacks towards the double side, get a nice, pretty nice early pocket as he rolls down the single side, and there's a lift on that single side, and you get a great attack and finish from your gentleman there. So take me through it. Talk to me. Tell me what you see, what you like, what you would do different, any options in the set, all of that fun stuff.
Yeah, so Tyrell Carroll was an all-league point guard. He averaged 19 and 6. And the one thing that we did in this ball screen was we had Alex John, who ended up starting for us in this game. His brother's going to Duke, and he became really good at rolling to the rim. And like I said, early in that game, we wanted to get our four-man going early, and we knew that they knew that we wanted to look for him, and that's Will Eames in that left corner.
Yeah.
And we put the guy that I said that we need to attack in a bind. He just took that bad shot. Now, he took that bad shot. We come down a few possessions later. He doesn't help on this tag, but also he was also going to be in a closeout position where one of our best offensive players was lifting, and he would really close out. And Tyrell Carroll just makes the right read. And you have Reese Glover. He was shooting 48% from three in like their right wing slot area. So it was hard for them to help. So we kind of used our numbers because I knew that they used numbers to kind of how they guard people. And they didn't put their chest on the ball. Tyrell Carroll gets downhill. He makes the right read, and Alex John does a good job finishing.
So what I love about this, and this is a tribute to you as being the gentleman who scouted the game. What I love about this is, as a casual observer who is also a coach, I recognize that you have a lot of the right guys in the right spots. So obviously you did your homework scout-wise in terms of where you're placing everybody. The ball screen coverage itself, did you have a pretty good idea of what they were going to play? I would call it like a shallow drop and over, basically.
Yeah.
You had a pretty good idea that's what they were going to go to, and there were no surprises? No surprises
in that. To be honest, they're known to hard hedge. They do hard hedge a lot. But because our point guard doesn't shoot a good percentage from three, they do a lot of drop with him, because they didn't respect him from three. So he was able to get downhill and get a paint touch a lot, because he's one of the better guys getting downhill and getting guys numbers and getting to the free throw line.
And just for us lay persons who didn't play at the Division I level and have the caliber of skill that you do, what teaching points would you give a quick ball handler who's attacking the drop downhill? What would you tell them to look for?
To look for, I always think to look for it automatically. If Reese Glover's in their right slot and that guy has his head turned when you come off their screen, you have to hit him, because I don't think you can get much better than 47 to 50% from three, especially at the time where he was playing. He was really, really hot at the time. And I would want Reese to be in a little bit more, but he was in a really good rhythm. I would also look at the weak side defender, like so the bottom side in the right corner, see how he's being guarded. He should be a little bit flatter as well, to get behind this guy's head. So those would be my first two things. Because if they're running drop coverage, I'm not worried about the man that's guarding me anymore, because of my guys, he's going to be on my hip.
Yeah.
And then my last read, I will always know that the last thing is the play behind. The play behind is something that unless we scout it out and we practice it every day, the play behind, I think, is always should be the last thing you look at. Because I do think the deeper you get, the play in front of you is always the play to make.
Love it. Giving us some gems, TP. I love it. This is one of their baseline out of bounds. It's still relatively early in the first half. I think there's 15, 20 something on the clock. I would call this a 4-low flex set. So basically, they're 4 across low. They inbound to their big and reverse it, and then they go into the flex action. So flex screen, down screen on the opposite side. Don't get what they want out of that primary action, but he flares or fades to the drift and gets a 3-point shot on it. Does this make your scout? How do you feel you defended it? Talk to me about it. What would you like to see better, etc.?
I'll tell you this: they got what they wanted, because that's their best player. And they ran this play. They run this action, and you can stop it a little bit right when he throws it in, and the point guard steps in. It's pretty much an option read, and he gives him the option to do whatever he wants to do. He can slip this screen and come off of it earlier to a dribble handoff. He can do whatever he wants to do here. And they picked on the right guy, which was Terrell Carroll, because they knew that he loved to shoot gaps, because, like I said, he led the league in steals.
Right.
And when we did scout it out, it was you need to be on this outside hip, chasing him off, and just be there on his catch. That's one of the moments you don't cheat it. But like I said, players gonna make plays.
Yep. They're
gonna make mistakes, and like I said, Tyler Guyman uses his body and puts him into the screen and gets a pretty good look. I would be okay with my best player taking this shot. So they get the shot. I feel like they want it, and they just missed it. So we got lucky. Now it was the fact that did we rebound or not.
So on this on the flex action with the pin down, would you change the way that the gentleman who ultimately loses the shooter and gets kind of draped on the screen, would you change the way that he would guard that, or would you try to switch and go over the top of it?
No, I would the flex cut, definitely. I would want him to go over the flex cut, to be that's move the ball, get over. You won't get touched by the screen if you move the ball and make a reverse pivot and you over top of it. And it also makes the guy that gets hit by the screen before the shot, it makes his job a lot easier as well.
Right. That was the gentleman that I was mentioning. Sorry, TP. So this gentleman that's now caught.
Yeah, he should be on his outside hip. Outside hip. Make them guys go into a ball screen cover, dribble handoff, and switch or something. Do something, switch on the dribble handoff, or get them out of the play that they want to do. Make them do something else besides.
Don't die on the screen. Do anything else but die on the screen, please. Yeah. Love it. Thank you. So this was one of your offensive sets, and there's a lot going on here, which is why I pulled it. I don't think I remember correctly. It actually ends up in a score, but I was really kind of interested in your multiple sequential actions teaching in terms of what you guys teach your guys when you don't get, he ends up getting blocked at the rim. But I loved everything in this altogether. So for anybody who's listening and not watching, it's basically like a double drag, except the second guy is setting like a flare screen. And then the ball stops in the center of the floor. We've got Miss London joining us. We bring it to the right side of the floor in the wing slot area again, and it turns into a double drag basically again. And we don't get anything out of it, so we form a triangle. We don't end up throwing the ball into the post, and now we turn into empty side pick and roll. And I thought this was a pretty good pass over top. I thought he had an advantage. He unfortunately gets blocked from behind. Maybe he could make the second side, but tell me about the play after the play and the sequential actions, how you teach that, and if you're happy with the way that your guys went from one action to the next to the next.
Yeah, I mean, by this time of the year, we gave Will Eames and Reese Glover, the two guys on the far left, they said the guys that's in that flush screen action, they had freedom to roam. So if you can go back to the beginning of it, where Reese was initially getting into that ball screen with Jaqueline Mays, he would sometimes, you can stop it. What I would have wanted him to do was he sees this screen and he goes under it, under the 5-man to get to the other side of the floor. We gave him free autonomy to roam, they allowed him maybe to hunt shots some, but I understand why he did this is because he hasn't gotten a shot and he's shooting 48% from three. He thought he wanted to get a dribble handoff and shoot it.
Okay.
So I know for a fact that's what he wanted to do because that's what I would have done if I was that hot as well and I haven't gotten a shot.
I'm gonna go get that and put it in the bucket.
Exactly. But at the same time, he doesn't get first. He sets a flush screen for Will Eames. He sets a flush screen for a 4-man, which 4-man not used to doing this. He's open. If he can make this pass, he can get down here and start a rotation. But he doesn't. He take care of the ball. He keeps it. He keeps his dribble. We get to. He makes a pass. He cuts, and we get to another double side ball screen with our 4 and our 5. And our 3-man is now come off a ball screen, which is sometimes a lot of people don't. A lot of threes come off ball screens. So Will pops. He gets a switch that we want, which is great. And now he throws it back. And now we have a 4 and a 5 in the ball screen, which is in everybody's world, probably is a switch.
Right.
In everybody's perfect world, that's probably a switch. But now they hard hedge this ball screen. Like I said, they normally hard hedge ball screens, and now you have 2-on-1. And Will, like I said, Will's a 4-man, but he makes the read like he's a 2-3 perimeter player. Now it's just up to the big to make the finish. So that I'm fine with that. I would want them to go rip the rim off. That's something that I would much rather them do. Right. But at the same time, I'm not disappointed in the offensive possession. I would be more so disappointed in what happened after they get the loose ball, our effort to sprint back. Right. That would be more something that I would more so coach than the offensive possession.
So let me ask you, Tim, when you're teaching this, how do you teach your guys? Like, I'm sure all of this is not drawn up. It's not, to the way it's supposed to be. How do you teach your guys next play, keep going, talk about, pace of play, talk about the sequential actions of what should follow what, like what little tidbits are you giving them to be able to understand what is supposed to be next?
Yeah, so it's funny. There's no out of bounds in practice. The guys got to play through the line, play through the whistle,
right?
Because you're fighting for every inch, and the matter of one possession can cause you to win and lose a game. And also, nobody cares if you miss a shot or make a shot. When it comes to how you react to it, nobody cares. Because we work on these shots every day. I wouldn't put you out there if I didn't trust in you making or missing a shot. I think that it also allows you to have a little bit more freedom. I think that we work on these shots every day. And I was a perfect example of a coach that actually I hit a big shot that I missed a lot of time. I missed that shot a lot, and we worked on it every day. And it's the same head coach I'm going against, and we're in conference tournament, and he tells me to shoot it in the possession. I don't care, you shoot it, and I end up hitting a big shot, and that kind of turns my mind to realize, like, God, it's what do you do after you make a mistake, or even after you make a shot? It's not about the fact that you're just out here because I'm a good player. Like, you have to make things happen out here. He missed his leg. He's his shot block. Now, guess what? A few possessions later, he takes a big charge. I mean, he's not worried about getting his shot block right now. That saves us possession. Now that possession that you missed that layup is kind of washed away by you getting a foul on somebody else and taking a charge and getting us another possession offensively. So I'm okay with that.
Love it. Here is one more offensive set. It's kind of like an Iverson cut into an away screen. So for anybody who's listening, balls up top, there's the Iverson cut, there's the away screen, and then they play over the top type deal where then they establish the offensive right side of the floor as becoming like a double side. And he takes, in my opinion, I can't really see the shot clock on it, but in my opinion, probably not the best shots, semi-contested. But talk to me about the action and the shot selection and what you think about it. I like the set itself with the Iverson cut into the away screen. It actually looks like it was supposed to be a screen for the away screen before he came to the ball. Am I mistaken about that, or?
Yeah. So what was supposed to happen here is soon as this away screen happens, he's supposed to get on, and the big's supposed to get out. He's supposed to get out, because this is what the action we got here is what we wanted, which is a switch. We get the switch we wanted, and we have a guard on our four-man. So now what's supposed to happen is the four-man is supposed to exchange the point guard. All right.
Right.
And then our four-man is supposed to go corner. Five-man supposed to be on the other side. And now we're forcing them to see if they're going to come double.
Right.
And allowing him to like he made that read on that ball screen, he's going to make the same read in the post on what play to make. Because they might help out Tyrell Karras. He's not a great shooter, but now you have to have a really good closeout to a guy that's really good downhill. Or you might go big double, and he's going to make the right read then. And also, he might not pass it at all and go left shoulder and get an and one or a foul. So that's exactly what was supposed to happen. We want the switch. We play a lot of our plays went to trying to get the switch.
When he gets the switch and then decides to crank it, what are you thinking? How do you speak to it? How do you mention it in game? What's the feedback?
So at this time of year, he had much self-awareness. His self-awareness, he initially comes right to the my bad. But he also knows that if he makes this, it's the same thing. It's my bad.
Right.
You know,
I like that. Not being married to the result is huge.
Yeah, he is being self-aware. And it's also funny because, like I said, this has become a really good rivalry in the MIAA. And if you don't watch the MIAA, I really suggest you watch, because they play some really good basketball. He knows that the coach on the sideline does not want him to get a shot off, no matter if it's a good, bad, or indifferent. He knows he's pissed right now that he got a shot that he felt like he can get off, even if it was bad. So that was kind of his mind game. And sometimes guys get into their own mind games with other people that they shouldn't. But he knew that was a bad shot. And like I said, at the time, I'm not really into undressing dudes in game, because I think we're in battle, and I think that one mistake can make everything implode really quickly. So my thing is to try to call him more so up and get him out of taking that bad shot and try to get through the battle. And we'll address that tomorrow when we're in film, and I can kind of make a little fun at him for like, what are you thinking? And
what are you thinking?
Try to make light of positions of the situation, because these kids know, some of these kids know majority of them know what's going on and what they're doing, and they just want to see what they can get away with as well.
No, I agree wholeheartedly. I think the closer you are to becoming an expert, the less feedback is needed from an external source. He has a pretty good idea that's probably not the right shot.
Yeah.
And we don't need to say it right now. Let's lift him up and keep going in game. This one is one more that's kind of like a shot selection type question. So we got like a floppy or a turnout type action. The ball moves to the left side of the floor. There's an attack, don't get anything out of it, and then attack to the middle. And the point man, which looks like a 4 or 5, the X4 or X5 kind of covers the nail, moves to the elbow type deal. We make the pass to the point, and then we shoot that shot. Hits it. Definitely like it. Talk to me about shot selection and the play itself. Are you okay with this? And is it a viable option, or again, would it be something that you might bring up in film and discuss later?
And for him, like I said, he's one of our better players, and I'm not a crazy. Like, some of your better players have to take shots, and they have to make shots. And and actually these are shots that he takes in practice. And that's another thing. If you take the shots that you're taking right now, like he takes that shot in practice, contested, but to him, that's not really contested because he gets it off pretty clean in his mind. And he'll shoot that in practice all day. I'm fine with it. Especially I think a few possessions before that, he hit one in transition.
Right.
And that's how I remember the game, right? Either he hit one then or one a few plays later.
I think he took one prior to this, but he hit one later. They were both in transition.
Yeah, and like it's a really, really tough shot, but he practices like in practice every day when we're going 5-on-5. This is a shot he's taking and making. And he's built up the resume to do it. Like he was an all-league freshman. He was an all-league player this year, as his second year. He was really big into our scouting report to get going. And like he understood that he did what I wanted him to do. Guess what? It's a right drive. He slid with the ball he probably knew before the ball got there that this thing is going up. So if he's that confident, in himself to understand what's going on, and he moved with the ball, he slid with the ball, it looks weird, but like I said, I've seen him do it time in, time out. And he was confident enough to know to have his feet ready to let it go before the pass even got there. And I credit the kid, Q, that made the pass to make those guys turn their head just for a split second to get up one of our best players a shot.
Love it. I like the phrase slid with the ball. Like we often talk about strings up here. So like if I'm going away from you, I pull you with the lift or the shake action. If I'm going towards you, I either have you slide with the ball or back cut, depending on where you are on the floor. So talk a little bit about the set briefly, if you can, sort of like a floppy or turnout action. What is the end goal of this when you're drawing it up, implementing it in terms of a shot versus what you end up with here?
Yeah, so we can go back to the beginning of it. So it's floppy. And like I said, our guys were, the screening and floppy is terrible. So I want actually I want each guy to have 1 foot in the paint, setting the screen and floppy. And I want guys setting it up. So I want to catch it at the free throw line extended area. That's where I would want to catch the ball as many times as possible. And I knew that they're not going to allow elbow catches for bigs as well, because that's just not his philosophy.
Right.
No elbow catches for bigs in floppy or horns. But at the same time, like I said, he hits the wing, and we're actually in an action that allows one of our best drivers, which is Q. He has the entire side from the left side to drive left. I believe Big Tony comes over by accident because he didn't know what to do instead of being in the dunk spot. But he retreats, and like I said, Will Eames really important to how people guard us on offense and defense. If he's making the missing shots and making plays as well. Now we want this big to be in the dunk spot because he's a lefty and he's really good getting downhill with his left, which is why we had him going that way. Because I believe he was able to beat a lot of people off the bounce. But he makes a good read and tries to get a paint touch and forces help. At the end of the day, all these plays that we're running are pretty, but at the same time, it's all coming from are we getting the advantage from a paint touch?
So would it be fair to say in summary that like when you run floppy action, whatever your wrinkles are out of it, you're not running it specifically for one guy to get a shot. You're running it ideally to create an advantage and get a paint touch.
Yeah, I'm trying to steal possessions. If I can get an easy shot, if I'm able to get my left-handed driver downhill, left-handed, and get to the basket or a drop off. And I really didn't run the play. I ran an action, and they figured out the play.
Right. Love it. So we got 3 defensive clips, and I think 2 of them are just about that same point guard that we were talking about. Snaking, hostage dribble type action, where he gets in and gets himself a paint touch and what comes out of it. So on this first one, it was a screen towards the right side of the floor. He gets in the paint, and then there's a whole lot of action afterwards. And I think they actually end up with not much on this one. Turns into another top ball screen. He snakes it again and then hits the fadeaway in that right short corner.
Yeah.
So this, and um, I'll group that, I suppose, with guarding the rescreen, because if I'm not mistaken, it's the same gentleman with the ball here, right? So he kind of blows up the coverage here because you guys gamble. Tried to go over and get it, don't get it, and then here, second side wide open shot. Talk to me about handling this gentleman in ball screen and what you say with the snakes and the hostage dribbles, etc.
Yeah. So it's like I said, he's really, really good at playing. He's not the quickest or fastest, but he's really, really good at getting guys on their hip. As you saw, our guys understood the first screen that's pretty much a drag ball screen because it happens so fast and it's in transition, but not a frenetic pace. Right. So you're supposed to, like I said, if you go back, like we talked about transition, you knew where you should pick up the ball. Like if you should be picking up the ball, you set up backpedaling, you should be picking up the ball to go over it because he can shoot it. The big is in the okay space, but he's not ready to guard the ball screen. So he tried to fight and he goes under it. It doesn't hurt us, but it comes back to bite us later on in the possession, I feel like. Right. But Tyler Guyman is really good at getting in the paint. He does a really good job at pivoting and not panicking in the paint. So he gets it here again. And, we ice it. But like I said, my big isn't up early. Like, so when you're not up early and you're not there, that allows guys like him to be really good players. Now you have to figure out, right now on the floor for them, they don't have a dork. They don't. All these guys can make a shot. They're all capable, at least they're capable of making the shot. And now it's about the activity that you have to run these guys out the line. That's the next possession. But like, as you asked earlier about the switching, this is when you switch it. It's late clock. Right. And now it's, contest. You have to contest. Don't foul, contest. And he takes it, he makes a good shot. Good players make tough shots. Yeah, I personally, as a coach, I'm fine with him making. Yeah, I'm okay with that. Like I'm actually okay with that. But I do believe that our initial ball screen coverage at the beginning of that possession makes this capable of happening. All the way back here. Yes, I believe the first ball, if our first ball screen coverage is really good, that snake doesn't happen. That drive doesn't happen. He doesn't get the ball back at that possession because he will be getting forced to a different area and somebody else will touch the ball. So I only have the one follow-up question. You said in the ideal world, you want to ice this in the middle third of the floor still, have him going to his left hand. And you want your big, how high up? What is your teaching point? You said up, but like you want him to the line of the screen, above the three-point line? What would be the indicator for you that he's in a good spot? I believe when you ice it, you have to be touching the big. You have to be touching him, and your guy has to be fighting through it. One slide, drop, staying with your man until your man get back and recover. Because even if we're at the 3-point line, that gives this guy enough room to snake it, and that he's gonna snake it through, and he's gonna attack my big hip foul. I think you have to take away the snake and people. I think people kind of confused with the snake ball screen coverage as being the first two guys and the guy that's in the action. But if you go back to that initial screen, our guy right here in the left slot, right now in the right slot, he's too low. He's below the line. If he's at the line, he should be at least getting a hand, jabbing, making this guy, not to see, at least see him and feel him. Right. And the same thing that happens in the second ball screen. I believe our guy's line is too low. I believe that's how you beat ball. I think that's him and the other guy go left wing. He should be up high when the ball screen. Need to be higher. They should be much more active, much higher And that's how I think that's what makes ball screen coverage really, really good, but really, really great. Not just I think the initial two guys in the screen make it good, but the guys off the ball make your ball screen coverage great.
Like it. And the line that you're referring about would be like the imaginary line between the ball and the player there. They need to be all the way up, like one hand touching it type deal.
Yep. One hand should be touching that line and your feet should be active, ready to close out, ready to maybe jab and go, jab and get the ball. You never know, because that could be one possession that you can steal. But like I think those two guys make your ball screen great. And then exactly like Caleb Bennett's in the back, if he's active with his hands up and he's talking to everybody, that's what makes it unbeatable when your ball screen coverage is when you have all five guys engaged.
Love it. So I'll get into this one. Was one more defensive clip. This is guarding America's action or cross screen, down screen. So there's a wing pass and then the ball gets swung around. We end up on the offensive right side. And as that's happening, just before the ball ends up there, you can see the cross screen, down screen happening. So there's our cross. Here's our down coming right up the gut type deal. And in an ideal world, how are you guarding that action? I didn't really care much about the rest of the play. He's a good big. He gets over his right shoulder, like you mentioned in your scouting report, and he's able to finish a hard one. But the cross screen, down screen, especially with that good player involved, what are you guys teaching points?
Yeah. So right now this is how many people in the country run cross screen, down screen now? Not a lot. It's almost a dinosaur, but it still works. The 5-man has to jump to the ball, especially if you're not guarding a guy that can shoot it. Like this play should be dead automatically. You shouldn't get screened. You shouldn't get touched. Nothing should happen ever, because if you're moving with the ball and you're guarding a guy that can't shoot it at the 5 from the initial, if you go to the initial possession, then the initial part of the possession, all right, he's in the action. It's pretty much a fluff dribble handoff, fluff ball screen. They're not. You can see it, and you can stop it. I'm not saying I'm a genius, but I know I said something about fluff ball screens, because you can tell when the team is trying to set a BS ball screen. You see him hugging his man. You should never hug your man. You shouldn't be want to touching them. You should be jumping to the ball and getting over the top of this screen as it's happening, or you should be able to already beat him to the spot.
Right.
Either way it goes, you should barely be touching him, and you should barely get touched by a screen.
Like basically just go to the block already.
Yeah, because at the same time, my guard right now, he's guarding somebody that's supposed to be somebody that we don't want getting the shot on this pin down. And so now, since he's guarding it how I'm telling him to guard it, he's sending a double screen on you. So that's a part of being the attention to detail.
Right.
And are you making a tire mistake, or did I not tell you? And as I would ask them, did I not tell you, or did we not talk about it, or did you make a mistake? And they would tell me, Coach, you didn't mention it. Like, okay, I'll mention it next time. But also, are you tired? No, Coach, I'm not tired. Then you made a mistake. Then if you're tired, tell me you're tired. Get somebody to sub in for you that's not tired. Right. I think guarding cross screen, down screen, especially guys that can't shoot it, and it's coming, because it's a slow developing play. That's just a tired mistake.
We got this one. There was only one thing that I thought was interesting, intriguing about this clip when I was watching this game. So this was you guys offensively. There's a mid ball screen basically, and he's attacking downhill. But when you guys, after setting this screen, you pop, and they help from their wing player, which I thought was interesting. It's like a high tag type situation. I'm wondering if you noticed it and made any sort of strategy adjustment, or I honestly feel like I only saw it one time in the game. So I was wondering if it was maybe a mistake by them, and if it was even noticed.
It wasn't. I mean, it could have been a mistake, but at the same time, like I said, they didn't want to help off Will Eames and help off Reese Glover. Those two guys, you don't want those guys making shots and getting shots, because that got our team going really well with those guys getting open looks. So they helped off Q Mays, and he was in a really, really bad slump at the time.
Right.
So I'm not saying that was something that they did, but if I was on the other side, I had to help off anybody, that's the guy I'm helping off, in that possession. When you talk about last second shot, when you talk about the best player, one top 5 players in the league, has the ball down, trying to get downhill, and he can make tough shots, as you can see.
Right. This was just really more of a tip of the hat to you guys. It was your baseline out of bounds. There's a bit of a rescreen action. You catch them on that slide to the basket off of the rescreen. Just talk to me about some options. So for anybody who's listening, it's basically a box set. The 2 top guys kind of pinch together. And then the guy who started on the ball side low makes like a phony fake cut where he turns it into a screen for the gentleman who's walked towards the ball, and that ends up with the slide underneath for the basket. Any options on it, or is that the go-to, and how many times in a game can you actually get that one?
So when I first put this in, we got back-to-back dunks in the beginning of the year. So people knew it was coming. But I also knew that we didn't run it for a while.
Right.
But Caleb Bennett was playing really hard, and I wanted to figure out how to get him going. And any kid that you tell them they're running their play, they get excited. So I knew it probably. I thought it wasn't going to work, because at the end of the day, it was going to be a pitch to the 5-man with dribble handoff with my best player.
Right.
Coming off, and of course I got 3 guys on the weak side. That's what I thought was going to happen, but we stole one.
Yeah, I like it. It's a good one. This is an easy one. I ask it every week, but I mean, basically, they turn the ball over. You guys bust out, pass to the left wing, transition threes, yay or nay for Tim Peete? And if yay, what is the criteria that sort of needs to go into it for it to be a makeable shot?
You shoot with me every day. No,
that's what it is.
But to be honest, he like I said, he was shooting I think in the upper 40s in this time. And I think he almost shot almost 50% from the season. And when I first got the job, I called him. I told him, I want you to shoot in the 40s, but I want you to probably get 100 more attempts, because he shot in the 30s. Right. But he's trying to be perfect, but at the same time, I'm fine with him doing that, because like I said, he shot with me almost every day. He was really, really good defensively. And I knew that if he makes this shot, like if you go back, like this is what makes teams really special. If you look at the bench and the teammates and the guy that passed it to him before he shot, right when he shot it, they were all standing. People started standing up because
they know
that that's what he does. And I'd rather him do what he does really well than him drive it and get down there with the trees and he turns it over, because he's 5'8", man. He's 5'8", 5'9", and he does what he does.
It's funny about that, TP, just as you're talking about bench and other players on the floor. My first year at York University, it's like my 3rd or 4th game. It's a preseason game, and it's like my first experience with college basketball as a coach, right? Mm-hmm. And we're down 6-0, and we're playing Dalhousie, and the team comes down. They make whatever action, and they pass the ball. And the guy that passed it is from my neighborhood in Toronto, so like I know him a little bit. And he turns to the bench, and as the guy is like letting it fly, he looks at me, he goes, 9-0, motherfucker, and walks off. And I was like, wow. I'm not even mad. That was a great chirp. Good for you. Like, wow. And like the whole team was in on it. I was just like, welcome to college basketball. That's what's up.
Yeah.
Spain action. So we've got 2 clips. The reason I brought them up were 2 separate points that I liked about it. First, I find it interesting that you set your first ball screen flat as opposed to facing the rim. Mm-hmm. I've seen variations of this. Talk to me a little bit about the speed of the roll and it being an option and the change of the timing on the X5, etc. when you set it this way. And I'll play it just so you can see it. He gets contested at the rim and misses it. And then the other one is, again, another Spain action. They miss first. We bust out the other direction. We set it up. Let me just fast forward a little bit here. Sorry. And where are we? Get to it. Sorry, I should have set the in on this. We get into our Spain action here. And on the second one, talk to me about the teaching points for the ball handler going all the way to the rim, what he's supposed to be looking at in order to be able to finish for himself. So just reiterating, the first point was everybody facing away from the basket with the screening angle, and then the second one was ball handler all the way to the rim. What's he supposed to be looking at type deal?
Yeah, so that plays 100% our point guards play, and everybody plays off him. And I think it comes from what I said about ball screen, how I'm trying to become a better ball screen offensive coach. It's always what's in front of you first.
Right.
We set it flat because it gave him the option to be able. I was never worried about him getting his ball stolen, ever. Which makes it
a nice benefit to have.
It's a great benefit to have. But also I didn't want to have him telling him, you have to go right, you have to go left. I think it takes away his imagination of a basketball player that he was. That way he can go hard one way and come off the other way, which is what he does, and they have to respect it. And he's able to get downhill. And like I said, and you make it simple for him is if he gets downhill, you see what's in front of you. And right now he could, if he wanted to, he could hit Will Eames in the corner for a shot, but it's fake help. So he gets downhill and gets fouled. And the same thing happens when he drives left, he gets right to the rim. And he always knew that he had the big coming behind him, and you had the guy that's popping at the top of the key. And I think what's in front of you is always the first option. And then what's behind you is when you're in trouble. Or when you're about to panic.
I like it. So like you basically are telling them, if you feel you have that line, you're attacking full speed. There's no slow down.
Get down here. This is your play.
This
is your play. Like I think he earned the right as an all-league point guard to be able to not just be in the bottle offensively. And like I said, he had the option to hit the 40% shooter in the corner, but it's fake help, Right. So I'm going to be selfish enough and smart enough to get to the rim and keep making these guys have to respect me as well.
So you're I call them ball handler, screener, and nail. You're nail gentleman here, setting this second screen for me as a teaching point, and I don't know if it's different for you, so please let me know your point of view. I would almost let him go instead of screening the drop here and get out already, because the play is already downhill. What's your point of view on that?
I think also, so Clausen, their bigs didn't do a really good job moving their feet. So anytime you can make those guys take a negative step to get around something, that I think that's how he got to the rim so clearly.
Right.
But at the same time, I think if you go to the the first one.
Yep.
I think the first one, he shouldn't have screamed. I think he should have just gotten out. Get out by. That's like he already went one way in the other direction and it became a screen.
Right.
So I think that but it's also
there anymore.
But it's because as you see, they're not switching. They're not helping off of our guy setting the screen the nail. They're not helping off of him because they don't want him to be lost. And if he gets lost and he lines his feet up, a timeout might be coming,
So for me, let's say it's the 2 is the nail guy. The X2, if they're not helping, I'd rather that 2 is just out of there as quickly as possible. And then the reason that I say I don't want him to set that second screen is if that 2 is out of there as fast as possible and the X2 goes with him, if I have a ball handler that's as good as yours, his man's already on his hip, so we have an advantage on that X5 already. So it's 2-on-1. Make your decision, and I like that idea there, as opposed to extra bodies in there.
Yeah, I think that's a good teaching point. I'm actually going to write that down now.
I'll send you the video. You good?
No, but at the same time, I do think that you have to have players that you have to practice it for one, and then you have to also have guys with feel, knowing when to and not to.
Right.
because I don't want to get an illegal screen. I'd rather just stand
For
there.
sure.
And then, or you try to get out early and you run into my ball handler, or you run into the big and get a legal screen, or the guy trying to get back in front. So I think that's something that you have to practice as well. So you just so they have much more feel, just in case if it does not work out, it gives you a teaching point to be able to be like, this is why it didn't work out. This is why it did work out.
So I'm kind of fortunate because there's one other team in my conference that runs a lot of Spain action, and they typically play a team that we're going to play before we play them.
Mm-hmm.
So I get I can go look at the film, like, all right, they're dropping over with the first two and the last guy's not even going type deal. Then it's like, all right, well, if I have a good ball handler, I'm 2-on-1 on that last guy.
And on top of that, Spain action is really hard to guard, depending on your personnel.
Yeah, for sure. They went to a bit of a press, and I really just kind of put in these two pressing clips just to pay tribute to. I mean, he doesn't make this shot here. He kind of misses a little floater, but then there's a second one here again where you guys just, in my opinion, carved them up. Just stayed calm, stayed relaxed, get yourself a little layup in the back. Talk to me about, scouting their press, the fact that the press didn't come until late in the second half. If your guys still remember what they're supposed to do, and how you feel you handled the pressure in both of these clips.
Yeah, I mean, we press every day in practice, so they don't do it every day in practice. So our thing is automatically they're doing something that they don't practice, and this is something that we do. 2 dribbles, 2 passes forward, you need to be attacked.
Right.
2 forward passes attack. You should always have 3 near outlets. Somebody, it's like right now, he wasn't in the middle, but that's where he took the ball when he got the skip. He should already be in the middle. But at the same time, I'm not worried. I never really worried about us being pressed, because we pressed every day and we did different types of presses, from 2-2-1 to 1-2-2 to man presses, to where I'm comfortable with my guys making the right decisions to that they're doing something that they're not comfortable with, that they might only do in 5 minutes for practicing situations once a week, versus we do this every day and we press and we get out in transition, and our guys are willing passers, and they're okay with sharing the ball and getting downhill, and they know, don't pull it out. If they want to press us, we're going to try to get to the rim and get layups.
Love it. Yeah, like I said, it was really just kind of a tip of the hat. I think they stayed in for about 3 minutes, 2 minutes, somewhere in there. I think they felt that they had to, but to me, it didn't look very successful at all. I was just like, stop pressing. These guys are eating you up. This one was an interesting set that I found that they ran. I kind of called it like a pistol type action, basically. So they run like a diagonal cut from the offensive left side of the floor to the right wing, almost like almost like an inverted shuffle cut, I guess. Then he chases it back. So now we're kind of into the pistol flare action, I would call it. So gets it back, and then there's the screen for him to come off, turns into the ball screen type action. And on the other side of the floor, there's basically an exchange / cut. So how do you feel you handled it without being too married to the result? And do you have this set in what you're scouting as something that they ran?
No, I didn't have this in our scout, because this is something that they didn't run a lot of. But initially, our guys go back from the beginning. Our guys knew anything guard to guard should be a switch, because we want to ice. Right. And we want the ice switch with our 4. So if you go back to the beginning, this right here initially coming over should be a switch. And if you switch it, if we're capable of switching this right now, we're capable. In our 5-man, which is Will, he's a 4. He will switch it, because our 3 and our 4. Caleb Bennett's a big, strong kid, and then you have Will Eames. That's our starting 4. They can switch, and they would have ice switched it.
And then you just keep the ball on that side of the floor.
Keep the ball on that side of the floor, and they have full autonomy to understand what's about to happen on the weak side. And what happened on the weak side is what we practice. We actually practice their motion, which is, exchanges.
Right.
Um,
I don't think they even get to it if you manage to keep
yeah,
it outside of
yeah.
it.
We switch. It actually makes you freeze if you guard this action with the switch. It makes them freeze. The worst thing that can happen is, well, the best thing that can happen for him is Tyler Godwin goes baseline, but he's not even thinking about baseline because of how it is. He knows he's running the play. So, and it keeps the ball at the middle of the floor, which is, to me, that was the most important thing in the scouting report, keeping him out of the middle of the floor, because he does a really good job of being patient in the middle of the floor, finding guys.
So to that exact point, that kind of brings up my next question. Guys that stride stop, pro stop, whatever in the paint, like the real small guys that you hate that get you up in the air and they shoot those little turnarounds and you're like, type deal. Do you guys have any teaching points for that in order to defend it? Are you digging from other positions? Is everybody staying home? What's your teaching point for that?
I want to stay home, just because I just think that that's a shot a lot of people don't practice. Actually, when I was at Greensboro, we would actually play one-on-one from right here, from that strive stop area.
Interesting.
No dribbles. We'd play one-on-one, and we stole that from Davidson, making guys finish through a wall from about eight feet, and not help, because I think that, when you make a guy shoot an 8-foot push shot and it's contested over a wall and not give guys an angle,
So
I think that's a much harder shot than the guy shooting a loose side of the ball, backdoor dunk, or catch and shoot three from over helping.
Right. Love it. I got two left. They're both end of game type stuff. So you guys are on the free throw line. Like I said, we don't have a live score while it's going, but I kind of reverse engineered the score from the end of the game backwards. I believe, if I'm not mistaken, they're down 7 after this free throw, and they come down and they basically hit a really hard contested 3 at this point. So they're down 4 at this point with like maybe 6 or 8 seconds left type deal. Is there anything special going through your mind in terms of how you want to deal with it, what you want to play at that point, or what are your end of game strategies here? And if I'm not mistaken, what ends up happening is they actually put you guys back on the line after that shot.
And to be honest, like you said, they tried to press us earlier, right? For us, I would have wanted us to not got the ball out that fast.
Right.
For the clock, for one, and then 2, I want to make sure that everybody's in their spots.
Right.
Just because if we're able to get the ball in and have our 3 near outlets, we're either getting a layup or we're running more clock, and we end up getting fouled. But it confuses them as well too. I would want to get the ball out fast if we were comfortable enough doing it. But I think that the time where the state of our team was at, I think we shouldn't have got the ball out that fast. We should have let the referee go get it. Make sure everybody understand they're in zone press, man press, or they, just so we have more control of the situation. But like I said, they hit a tough shot. But at the same time, I do think we turned it over, I think, a few possessions before that as well.
Right. Forgive me. Sorry about that. My child is FaceTiming with her mother. Sorry about that, everybody. Just as a follow-up question to what you were just saying, TP, apologies. Would everybody on your team know who the ball should be going to free throw wise? Like, everybody's got a pretty good idea that they're about to get fouled and who should be shooting those shots?
Yes, they know for a fact the ball goes to Tyrell Carroll first. It goes to Reese Glover second. It goes to Caleb Bennett third. They know that. They know, and at the same time, Tyrell Carroll's not allowing anybody else to take those free throws if he doesn't have if he has full control of that situation. He wants it, and he doesn't mind having it. And the same thing for Reese Glover.
Love it. And then the play after, so basically you guys get fouled, you knock down your 2 free throws, and they have the opportunity to set something up, and you just basically let them go to the rim. Any special instruction other than pretty much don't foul at this point, or is it just like let's let this clock go and try and let that time run down?
Yeah, I mean, I would have wanted to be a little bit harder, but it's funny. You can't be as literal with these guys as you want to be, because but at the same time, I didn't want to walk out of there with the foul, getting the foul 40 feet from the basket.
Right.
But at the same time, that I was fine with it because the guys fought hard. It didn't hurt. It didn't end up hurting us. But at the same time, it would make me better for next time I'm in the situation for sure.
Like it. And then if any coach has a question, please feel free to jump in. But that's it for film for me. I had one question from the question part before that I didn't get to, and this is one that I'm pretty interested in. I know just from talking to you in setup that you still have the scout and you've been able to go back and pull stuff. Do you do anything that's like a post-game report or a post-game assessment that attributes, your win to things you did well from the scout, or vice versa? If there's a loss, hey, I omitted this and it would have helped, or I think the scout was correct, but we didn't execute these types of things. Do you do anything that's like that?
We have, so our GA, Weston Smith, he does analytics, and he would show us what percentage of guys, there are three or four hot spots that they score a lot. But he would come back and let us know how we did in defending these guys in their spots. If it was a pick and roll situation or ISO or left block, right block, whatever. But we never showed the guys that because for the most part, they're done with the game after the game's over with.
Right.
But we did show those guys about the number of paint touches that we got, the number of deflections we got, our offensive rebounding numbers. Those things that they cared about. And also we would literally show guys, especially during that stint, because like I said, we went on a 6-game losing streak, 1-2, and then ended up winning a really big one on the road there. We started showing guys the bench. I think I think your bench can tell your entire team.
Right.
I think that was something that I focused on a lot more, of seeing if you're engaged with because when that game, I remember I didn't have to call out a lot of things because the guys on the bench, their teammates was on the bench because it was spaced out. They were screaming and calling out things that were happening for me. I just had to call out the situation. But the guys, and that's where I felt like I kind of threw away a lot of the numbers and a lot of things, and the engagement of your teammates. You can see it. You can see it on the bench and in the film, and the eye in the sky don't lie, as you know, it's an old saying. And the teammate and being involved with another teammate, if they're playing a lot or playing a little, making a mistake or making big shots, I think that's something that we start tallying, seeing the guys that were engaged, what position they were engaged, or really just sitting there feeling sorry for themselves or not feeling involved. We actually did a decent job of tallying times when guys moved on the bench, which is pretty funny. But I think that's what made us good early in the year, because our guys were really active in talking. And that's why I think also, other than COVID, that's an excuse that everybody can give. And that's a reason why. But I'm not that, I don't want to say that's why we lost 6 in a row. I don't think good teams lose 6 in a row, no matter if it's COVID or anything, you know. So but our bench engagement wasn't good at the time. So
Like it. TP, that's everything that I've got. I really, as I said, not only appreciate getting to present with you over this past year, learning from you, all that. It's been awesome. But I really appreciate you jumping on, taking the time to do this, spending some time on Run It Back. Obviously, and an exemplary knowledge of the game, and I'm happy to have you share it. It's been really cool. And to all the coaches who jump on, as always, thank you. Appreciate you guys. I don't have anything further than that question-wise. So just my extreme gratitude. Thank you. Really appreciate you.
And I appreciate you letting me come on, man. I enjoyed it.
Awesome. I'm gonna stop the recording there. Obviously, feel free to hang around. It's the best part. Thanks everybody for tuning in this week, and tune in next week. We got 2 good ones coming up.